But I think the thing that got most attention and most notoriety over the last weekend with the NBA has been the coaching hires, man. Jason Kidd and Chauncey Billups. I know you feel very passionate about. I mean, I do too, but you've obviously you did an episode on it last night on the Dime, and you obviously have a lot of strong feelings on this issue. So I'll let you fire off first, man. What are your thoughts on both the Jason Kidd hire and the Chauncey Billups hire?
So specifically with I'll just start with the Chauncey Billups hire, just because it's more recent. I can understand that there's two sides to this, right? Like you just have to acknowledge that there are two sides to this because the case
Yep.
was settled. And if the case was settled, there's no guilty verdict. So people can read a settlement, people can hear details of the case, and people can come up with their own conclusions. And some people will come to their own conclusions that he's innocent. Some people come to conclusions that they're guilty, but there's no official verdict. So
Right.
for me, if people are going to read the settlement and if they're going to come to their own honest, logical conclusion that they think he didn't really do it, I think that's fine. That's okay. Whatever, that's your prerogative. But I think if you're an organization like the Portland Trailblazers, like you have to be very aware of the people who you are hiring and what message it sends. And if you're going to hire someone with a past like this or with a settlement like this, you have to be very, very clear as to his, I guess, presumed innocence in your mind, the investigation that you do, the logic that goes behind it, the vetting process that happens. Like there's so many steps you have to go through to convince your fan base that, listen, he's good before you even like make that decision. I think what compounds the problem is that when they were going to hire Jason Kidd or when Jason Kidd was their front runner, there was so much backlash about Jason Kidd and his domestic violence past that
Mm-hmm.
Blazers Twitter, especially specifically the women of Blazers Twitter, made such an uproar that they backed off from Jason Kidd.
As
So
they
now,
should have. Yeah.
yeah, and absolutely should have. So if you're Neil Olshey for the GM of the Blazers and you see
Mhm.
this backlash, why in the world would your next candidate be someone who has a checkered past like Jason Kidd,
Right.
regardless if you think he's innocent or not? It makes absolutely no sense. You see that your fan base doesn't want this. They want no part of this, how they react to this, and rightfully so. Why is it that that's your next guy? Why is it that's the guy you hire? And then on top of that, why are you virtual signaling and throwing bait out there saying that, oh, we're interested in Becky Hammond. She made the second round. Oh, all of a sudden we're interested in Dawn Staley. And I love Dawn Staley, but no offense to her. She's never, ever been mentioned for a head coaching position ever in the
Mm-hmm.
NBA. So to me, you're just throwing out a black woman's name out there just to satisfy, you know, everyone that you made upset with the Jason Kidd hire or
Yep.
the thought of the Jason Kidd hire. So the way the Blazers organization just handle this was to me absolutely despicable, and I throw that right on the GM. I think that's all the GM. A lot of people want to throw blame at Dame. I don't want to throw blame at Dame. I do think that Dame in the beginning didn't know the accusations about Kidd, didn't know the accusations of Chauncey Billups. I think this was all GM Neil Olshey and his doings and what he wanted. We can get into discussion like whether or not Dame, ended up knowing about Chauncey and what role he played of Chauncey getting hired. I don't know what that is. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
speculation that he's not involved with that, the organization kind of swept the rug from underneath him. He seems to be very unhappy right now. Who knows? The other problem I have is with the people who think that people who are concerned about Chauncey Billups are virtue signaling. And I really need this is all men. Men really need to shut the fuck up and listen to women. Like just shut the fuck up. No, I'm serious. You need to shut the fuck up.
No,
Like
no, yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
trying to be mean. I'm not coming at men in a way where it's just like, oh, I'm better than thou because I support women. I don't mean it like that. What I'm trying to explain to some men is that you have no idea what it's like to be raped or domestically violated in a lot of ways that women have. And I'm not saying men don't get raped. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
trauma that goes into being domestically that goes into being abused sexually, physically. And when you watch sports as an escape, when you watch sports to get away from all that, or when that's your normalcy from a situation like that, and then you have to see someone who's leading your team who's been accused of that, that brings back trauma. So whether or not you think Chauncey Billups is guilty or not guilty, you have to understand what it's like coming from a victim of domestic violence, and you have to understand what that does to them. You can think he's innocent all you want, but you have to be empathetic and understand their side. Because if you don't, then you're just a piece of shit human being. I don't care what you say. And for the people who are mad at people, quote unquote, virtue signaling, you need to shut up. I'm sorry. You just need to shut up. There are a bunch of groups in this situation to be mad at more than people who might be virtue signaling on the right side of history, by the way. All these people you claim to be woke, they're woke for a reason. Like they're on the right side of history. They're not sleep like y'all. You're asleep, and 30 years from now, you're gonna look like a bunch of idiots, defending. I'm not saying Chauncey's a rapist, but going to the lengths to insult people who are standing up for women. Like y'all look stupid.
Right.
Y'all look stupid doing it. If you're gonna be mad at someone, be mad at Neil for putting your organization into this predicament. If you're gonna get mad at someone, maybe get mad at Chauncey for even having these accusations or doing this thing in the first place. Don't get mad at people who are trying to stand up doing the right thing. No one's trying to, cancel Chauncey. People are just simply saying that I'm a victim of domestic violence. My loved one is a victim of domestic violence. My loved one has been raped. Whatever it is, and they cannot stand the sight of someone who they think is guilty of this wrongdoing. They're not trying to cancel Chauncey. They're just saying, I can't do this anymore. And you just need to be empathetic of that. And you need to understand that. You can watch them, they can't, but don't blame them for not watching them. So I have a lot of thoughts on it. I just think that the response and the support that Chauncey has gotten from people is for the wrong reasons, because nobody in their right mind is going to support a coach who has 1 year of experience as an assistant coach over D'Antoni, who's, whatever you think of him, has been a 2-time coach of the year for the NBA. Becky Hammond has been an assistant coach under the second greatest, maybe the greatest coach of all time for 7 years. There are other candidates outside of Chauncey Billups that probably are more qualified that Neil could have hired. So don't sit here and tell me that you're excited for Chauncey, this man who has 1 year of experience, because you think he's going to be a great coach. You have no idea if he's going to be a great coach. You're just mad that there are people who are standing up for women because, for whatever reason, because you don't like social justice warriors or wokeness. So I think those people need to take a look at themselves and wonder why they're so freaking mad at people standing up for the rights and the well-being and the mental health of women who have been violated. It's absurd. It's ridiculous.
Ooh. Ooh.
I
Man,
just
I don't even
rambled.
know how to follow. No, you're good, man. I appreciate it. I'm
Well, no,
usually
because
the one rambling on the show.
but I hate it, man. Because it's like the whole, and that's one thing that bothers me. It's like I got into this little, and it was honestly, it was a very respectful conversation with someone who I respect, and I don't know who he is. He hit me up maybe like 3 years ago when I started to Dime, because he wanted to do his own podcast. He has his own Blazers podcast. I don't even know his name. I just know what his podcast name is, but I'm not going to put it on blast. I don't want to like put him out there like that.
No, I get it.
But it came down to, like, he was saying that he was pointing out that the people who virtue signal about caring about this issue are the problem and the reason why Dame might win out. And I was like, there are so many different groups that you can get mad at. Why are you getting mad at the specific group that you think that, first of all, is a small minority, that you think is virtue signaling for the right thing? Like, it makes no sense. It doesn't make sense. The only conclusions I can come to is, like, you logically either A, hate women, or B, don't care enough about women, or C, you do care about women, but you just want to see the Trailblazers win a championship. None of it makes sense. None of it makes sense.
Yeah, man. I have a lot of thoughts on this issue too. First and foremost, I'll start with what might be the unpopular part. Um, I'm all for getting upset and getting mad and believing women and standing for women. Of course, I'm a father. First of all, I have a wife, I have 2 daughters. So I'm always going to, I was raised by women. My mom and my grandmother raised me. So I'm always going to be sensitive to issues affecting women of any color. Um, the issue that bothers me is it, as my daughter pops her head into the footage here. The issue that bothers me, though, the most, more than anything else, is, are we outraged because, Chauncey Billups and Jason Kidd have these pasts and these histories to them? Or are we outraged because it's Chauncey Billups and Jason Kidd, right? And what I mean by that is, if this is Phil Jackson that's on the market and he's the hot coach and everybody's falling all over themselves to hire him, but Phil Jackson has this history and this past to him, is it the same energy from the folks that are saying, well, don't hire this guy, don't hire this guy, don't hire this guy? And I'm not saying you're doing that. I'm not saying people that are doing that. I'm just saying, my thing is, I'm big on consistency. And, like, let's be consistent. If this is Eric, I don't even go Phil Jackson. Let's say if this is Eric Spoelstra. Let's say this is Rick Carlisle, a bona fide, proving, winning head coach. You hire this guy, and at minimum, you are a perennial playoff team, even a championship contending team. Is the energy the same as opposed to hiring an inexperienced coach in Chauncey Billups and a guy in Jason Kidd who, for some reason, has convinced the NBA world that he's somehow a good coach when he is not? just look at his record. So that's where I want to say it's like, is the energy that, or is the energy that you just really feel appalled about what these men do? Okay, now going on, or what these men allegedly, I gotta say allegedly, in the case of Jason Kidd, not so much, but Chauncey Billups allegedly. If we're gonna go off that, then sure, let's go off of that. If you're going off of what the history of these men have been alleged to have done, then yeah, I completely agree, man. I think it sends a bad message to your organization when you're bringing these individuals in and you're saying, hey, we're an organization, we're a stand-up organization, we believe in this, we believe in that, believe women, all these other things, and it's like, oh, okay, we're gonna hire Jason Kidd. It's like, okay, that doesn't line up with the messaging there. Oh, okay. Oh, you guys are mad about Jason Kidd. Okay, we're ixnay Jason Kidd. We're not going to hire him anymore. Let's bring in Chauncey Billups. Okay, yeah, that necessarily isn't like he's better than Jason Kidd, but that's not saying much because he has his old picadillos in his closet too, right? It just feels like the whole thing is just sloppy and just poorly executed by the Blazers. It just kind of felt like they just didn't know what the hell to do, and they got caught in a situation where they tried. I feel like the Blazers tried to get too cute. They tried to get too cute with Jason Kidd, and then the NBA world called them out for it. So now they had to kind of backpedal, and then they're like, okay, well, maybe they won't get as mad for Chauncey. And like, oh wait, Chauncey has his own issues, which I'm sure they knew about anyway. But I think they kind of tried to. I think they probably felt because Chauncey's was a different level, and there's a little bit more gray area with Chauncey's issue. They kind of felt like maybe they could get away with it, but it's bad, man. It's bad. The only issue that I have with everything is, and this is just a question that I have more so than an issue, and maybe you can answer this for me. What's the statute of limitation on these kind of issues, right? Because are we saying, and it goes into the whole cancel culture, and I know you're not a fan of cancel culture or whatever, but the whole term of cancel culture, it goes into canceling, and are we gonna not hear or see these people forever because they may have an accusation or something in their past? Is Jason Kidd not entitled? Because I've heard this conversation brought up to people, and people have brought it up to me like, well, is Jason Kidd barred from ever having a job again because he had an issue with his wife behind closed doors? Fair. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it. Let's just put it out there. I don't agree with that. But it's fair to bring up. Like, so are we just supposed to never hire Jason Kidd ever again, regardless of his credibility as a coach or whatever? Are we never supposed to hire Jason Kidd? To a greater degree, Chauncey Billups, who was accused, settled out of court. You can have your opinions on whether you think he did it or not based on the facts, whatever. We're not here to litigate that. Should Chauncey Billups now never have an opportunity to earn a livelihood or have a position in the NBA as a coach, executive, or whatever, because of an allegation of something that we don't know? I think that's a valid question to have. And I think that's a valid point to bring up. What is the point? What are the statutes of limitations when it comes to these issues? And are people subjective? Are people subject to this forever? Like, so Chauncey Billups is never hireable in your eyes. Is Jason Kidd never hireable in your eyes because of the issues that may have gone on in their past? And I think as a society, we really haven't reconciled with that, because there's still people that say like, yep, scorched earth policy, don't hire him, whatever, blah, 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 never. And I respect that. But then there's also people like, okay, they did something not cool, whatever, but should these people be barred for life? Should these people not have jobs or not be able to have jobs for the rest of their lives because they may have done something or allegedly done something in their past? So where do you stand up? Because I think a lot of that is that. Of course, there's the idiots out there like, oh, so what? Jason Kidd hit his wife. Who cares? He can coach basketball. Like, there's the idiot. You're never going to win with those idiots. So yeah. I don't even want to talk about them. It's the folks that I'm talking about. Where do you sit on that?
So I think it depends, right? I don't think that's a hard line. I don't think I can give you a time like, oh, it's 10 years. I think it's a very gray, very, very, very gray line. So for me personally, right, Jason Kidd, he was convicted. He was convicted of abuse.
That's why I said Jason Kidd and Chauncey are two different.
So now what's the coaching position, right? Now, I'm not saying Jason Kidd should never have a job ever again in his life. I'm not saying he should be completely canceled, but the coaching position is a leader of men. The coaching position is a leader of a franchise. The coaching position is a face of a franchise. So do you think that someone who has been convicted of beating his wife and domestic violence should be that for your team and your franchise? And to me, The answer is no, you shouldn't. Now, does that mean he can't get other jobs? No, you can get other jobs, but to have that specific job, no, I don't think you're qualified, especially someone like Jason Kidd, who, to my knowledge, hasn't done anything to rectify the situation. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, I could, I could, I could make a mistake tomorrow, and I'm not saying domestic violence, but any type of mistake, right? I might do something like, let's just say I harass a homeless person on the street, or like I just start bullying homeless people, and that comes out. Like, well, what am I doing to rectify that situation? Maybe I'm donating to the homeless. Maybe I'm doing some work in the kitchen. Maybe I'm like showing like, hey, you know what? I really do care about homeless
Mm-hmm.
people. How I was a mistake. How the way I acted was wrong. There's been
Right.
none of that. There's been absolutely none of that. So what makes me think that Jason Kidd just didn't settle or get convicted and did and just was like, yeah, whatever, and moved on and didn't learn his lessons? You know, on top of that, like I said, I think it is very important the position that he holds. As I'll say it again, you are the head coach, you are the face of the franchise, you are a leader of men, you are the
Yep.
where people go to ask questions for this team. You are answering questions about the team every single day. You are the face of the team. When a woman of domestic violence turns on the TV, she sees your face and she has to be triggered every time she sees your face. I don't think someone like that should be the head coach. I'm sorry. I don't. Now, I'm not saying he shouldn't have other jobs. I'm not saying he should be completely canceled, but that's a position, especially if you don't do the groundwork to, rectify the situation or do your best to show that, hey, listen, I know I was wrong, XYZ. I'm trying my best to show you that I know what I did was wrong and that I'm trying to make it better. That person shouldn't be in a position of power. I'm sorry. They shouldn't. Chauncey's a little different because Chauncey settled. And there's a lot of different details within the case that, you know, are within an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. So there's a lot of things that we don't
Right.
know, and you and I can have different opinions of like whether or not
Mm-hmm.
you think he did it or not. And I can't for sure say whether or not he did or didn't. Now, I did read up on it. Personally, I do think he's guilty. That is my personal opinion. But if you're going to tell me that he wasn't, I can't say that you're wrong. I just can't. But also for me, if you want to be a leader of men, if you want to be the face of a franchise, if you want your name out there, you have to at least show some type of effort to say, you know what, I had this in my past. This might be an allegation. This might have been it might have been a complete misunderstanding. But for me, if I was in Chauncey's situation, this is what I think of. I am going out of my way to make things right with the victim. I'm going out of my way to show women that, hey, listen, this is not me. Like, I do care about you. I do respect your bodies. Like, there are certain things you can do, especially a man, a Chauncey status who has money, who has connections. You can do that. You know what I mean? This is
Yeah.
not someone who's making $40,000 a year and can't go out his way to do things, doesn't have the time because you are Chauncey Billups. You're a millionaire. You can donate. You can spend time. You can do a lot of different things to show, hey, listen, I fucked up. My bad. It was a misunderstanding. Didn't mean to do it. Like, there's a lot of different routes you can go. He has done none of
Right.
that. And that's the problem. I feel a lot of
That
the
we know
times,
of. That we know of.
right.
That
That's,
we know.
to be fair, yes. That's the problem to me. You get what I'm saying? Like,
No.
to
Yeah.
me, and if I mess up in some sort of way, I'm doing what I can to rectify the situation. That doesn't mean that you can ever forgive me. I don't expect forgiveness from everybody, but I'm at least showing you that, hey, I know what I did was wrong, and I'm trying my best to make up for it. I am sorry. And I can also understand that someone who has been a victim of my actions still doesn't want to forgive me because of the act that I did was so heinous. And that's something that people have to like really understand, that rape and domestic violence, that sticks with women forever, for the
Absolutely.
rest of their lives. The whole statute of limitations thing doesn't happen for women. There's no statute of limitations for a woman who has been raped. It's not like 15 years later, they're like, oh, it's been 15 years. Now I forget
Right.
about
Right.
the
Right.
rape.
Right.
Like, for the rest of their lives, they're feeling that. So for me, I personally, I know it might be a little harsh. I don't think it's cancel culture. I don't think men like that should have positions of power to that extent, in my opinion.
I agree, and I completely agree with you 100%. And let me clarify before somebody takes this and run with it. When I meant
Right.
by statute of limitations, as far as whether or not to hire somebody, whether or not to get this person in public positions or whatever, not rape or any. I'm
It's a
not
valid question. I
referring to
think it
that.
is a question because if you commit a crime and you do the time, right, you face the consequences for your crime. I can understand like if I robbed the convenience store and get 10 years in jail, like I
Hmm.
don't want to be judged for that forever. Like I went to jail for 10 years.
Right.
Like
Right.
I
And
understand
like
that. But I do think rape is different. I do think domestic violence is different.
right. And every crime, every penalty, every penance is different, right? I'm not going to judge the same person that
Right.
rapes somebody as somebody who steals a bus. Like there's just two different. They're two different crimes, obviously.
Right.
I don't know. I listen. I agree with everything that you're saying, and if I am a Blazers fan, especially a woman, and happens to be a Blazers fan or a supporter of the Blazers or works for the Blazers or whatever, yeah, I'd feel some type of way. And they have every right to feel some type of way. I just don't like the phoniness attached to this because, again, I bring up if this is not from you, I'm just saying there are some people, there are pockets of folks that tend to jump on these issues for convenience.
I don't think it's
Not
as many
saying
people
you.
as you think. I know you're not. I know you're not
I think
accusing me.
I think that there are some. I think there are some, Josh, and
I think there
I
are
think
more
you have
people
to
who
look.
get. I think there are more people who make up the phoniness and get mad at the so-called phoniness than there is actual phoniness. I think people create this straw man of phoniness and attack that straw man of phoniness,
Right.
claiming that there is phoniness. I do think obviously there's phony. Obviously, there's some people who attach themselves to the issue, but to me, the opposite side of the argument, all they do is create this straw man that everybody who thinks the way that they don't think is like this virtue signaling woke social
But
justice warrior, and they create this straw man that really does not exist. It doesn't exist.
what I mean by that is, and touche, great point.
Yeah.
My my point is the phoniness when it comes to fans being upset about a coach, right? Because it's easy. It's easy for me to say, oh, I don't want this coach to coach, right? Because there's a million and one other coaches out there that you can
Mhm.
hire, that you could bring in. But now let's say, you know, Dame Lillard is accused of, raping a woman. You know, whether fair or unfair, there's going to be a strong contingent of Blazer fans that are going to be like, yeah,
But it's
sucks that he
Dame.
did that, but it's Dame. That's where, again, there's a consistency, right? Because now you're talking about the superstar, the face of the franchise. There isn't another Dame that you can come in and bring in and replace. Jason Kidd, who cares? I can hire some no-name assistant, Josh Rodriguez, on the Spurs, and he could be just as good of a coach as Jason Kidd potentially, right? But when it's my thing is, are we going to apply the same level? And I know you are, and I know people that we know, mutual friends of ours, are going to apply this. It's everybody else. Are you going to apply the same level of scrutiny to athletes and players that get in trouble for the same
But
issue as you are?
even if they don't apply the same thing, it doesn't mean that their outrage towards Chauncey is inauthentic, and it doesn't mean that their outrage towards Candid is inauthentic. It is very authentic. Now, if they take it to Dame, that's another story, but it doesn't rectify or cancel out the outrage they had for these coaches. That's how I feel.
The only thing I disagree with you on is when you said it isn't inauthentic. Like, so I'll use you as an example.
Mhm.
You are outraged about the Chauncey Billups hire and the Jason Kidd hire, right? Where you would be inauthentic, and I know you're not, but where you would be inauthentic is if in the same breath you say, I am outraged, Jason Kidd, Chauncey Billups, how dare you? But, I don't know, Julius Randle molests 6 girls tomorrow and it's on the news. Yeah, but Julius, man, he's such a hardworking dude, man. He's such a great player, man. The Knicks need him. I think we can let's wait a little bit and see where, like, that's where you would come off as inauthentic, because it's like, well, hold on now. You can't be upset that that this team hired that. That's where and
I'm
that's the
being
point that I'm trying to make.
inconsistent and inauthentic about the Julius situation, but that does not mean that my anger towards Chauncey and Kidd is not valid. It's still valid. That's what I'm
It's
saying.
still it's still valid, but my point is that you have to apply that outrage in the same vein
Yeah.
to everybody.
Yeah, I think
Because then
everybody would
it's
agree with that.
because then it's like you're picking
Yeah.
points and positions
Selective
based on
outrage.
your selective outrage, and that's the point. And more than anything else, everybody hates selective outrage, because it's like, well, you're
But I
outraged about
hate,
this, but
but
not
for
about
me,
that.
I get more upset with people who get upset about selective outrage rather than being outraged of the issue itself. So
Yes,
if you're going
facts.
around trying to commenting on females' Twitter pages like, well, were you outraged about this? Were you outraged about that? But you yourself aren't outraged about any single case about domestic violence, then shut up. Shut the fuck up. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Like
no,
don't
absolutely.
talk to me. You're just
And again,
deflecting. All you're doing is deflecting from your abhorrent beliefs. I'm sorry.
yeah,
Don't you dare try to point out someone's hypocrisy and selective outrage if you yourself aren't outraged at all.
aren't
It's
outraged by
bullshit.
it. Absolutely. No, I absolutely. And let me clarify this, because you know how things tend to go. They snowball. Oh, Manny said that
No,
you should
I
be
mean I
outraged.
know you,
No,
and I
I'm
know
not
you're
saying
just
but
yeah, I know.
people somebody's going to listen to this and run off.
Yeah,
Run off.
I
I'm
get it.
not saying that. Please, I am outraged about Jason Kidd and Chauncey
Yeah.
Billups as well. I think that, yeah, you're absolutely right. When you hold a position of power or leadership, and I don't care whether you're coaching an NBA franchise or you're managing a Starbucks, like when you're in a position of leadership and power, yes, your history, your background should be brought to light, and you should be judged on the entirety of your career. And yes, if you're a woman right now and you're a fan of the Blazers or you work for the Blazers or whatever, yeah, you should feel outraged. Like, wait, hold on. This is an organization that says that they're about this, that, and the other, blah, 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 blah. And you hire Chauncey Billups or you hire Jason Kidd or you hire this person or you hire X person that, beat 3 women or whatever. Like, yeah, you should feel some type of way. Absolutely. I have no problems with that. I try to look at when these issues, because it is hard, right? Because in the sake of like Chauncey Billups, like there's the element of like, do you agree that do you think he did it? Do you think he not did it? And then how do you base that and how do you apply that when it comes to this man potentially pursuing other jobs in the NBA?
Right.
Jason Kidd's easy. That's a slam dunk.
Right. Chauncey's a little complicated.
Whatever.
Chauncey, I have to give rope to someone who reads a settlement and says, I think he's innocent, because to be honest with you, like, it's a settlement. Like, and that's how you need to think. And if you want to see him be the coach for the Blazers and you read the settlement, and you really do read the settlement and you come to that conclusion,
because there's people that think that anybody who settles in any kind of legal dispute, they think they're guilty automatically. There's a lot of people, like people in my family, oh, you should never settle, you should fight, even though you have no chance of winning.
Right.
You should fight. Right. There's people that believe that.
I know.
I don't necessarily always agree, because there's nuances to everything.
Right.
We don't know what these cases are. We don't know what the evidence were. We don't know that Chauncey may have been in a situation where he just didn't have the time to fight this case. And maybe he just, again, I don't know all the details. You've read up on it. I haven't. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'd be a phony and fraud and say, yeah, I read up on every detail, everything, 50 pages of it. I didn't. I don't know. Right. I'm just trying to provide some logic, because there is gray area with Chauncey Billups. And again, maybe the Blazers felt like, hey, he paid his penance, and in the sense of he settled, he paid this woman. Obviously, money will never fix whatever trauma this woman may have experienced, whatever money or any kind of thing that he provided for her never will fix that. But in their eyes, he owned up to it. He Face the Music. It's out there. It's in the conversation piece. Obviously, they've had interviews with him. I'm sure they've vetted him, right? I mean, I that's what I have to believe, that they vetted him, right? And they vetted people, and they've reached references and women that they work with. Again, it's a sticky situation. This is the similar situation, obviously, with the Mets over this, last fall with, with Jared Parker, or the GM. I forget his name, but obviously a guy, I'm sure the Mets organization vetted him, but guess what? These things came out. Obviously, that's a different situation, because obviously it was known that he had these issues, and other organizations and even ESPN never went fully public with what they knew, what they had on him. Obviously, that's a different situation. So listen, I don't know, man. I hate these situations, because I try to put myself in it from a human perspective and try to understand, like, okay.
I got it. And my thing is, even like, so for instance, let's just take hypothetically, like you read the settlement, you come to your own conclusion. You know what, Josh, I don't think Chauncey's guilty with this, and I'm cool with the hire. I have no problem with that. The only thing I ask for you is to understand a woman who has been through what she's been through, and understand why she doesn't want to watch the team anymore. Don't call that woman a fake fan. Don't call that woman a virtue signaler. Understand where she's coming from a place of empathy. That's my point. If you want to believe he's innocent, and you want to believe he's the coach of the Blazers, that's fine. But don't turn around and then trash a woman who's been raped, or trash a woman who's been beat by her husband or whatever, because you want Chauncey to be the coach. Have some empathy. And understand that is a trigger, and not everybody's going to read that settlement and think that he's innocent like you. That's my beef.
Absolutely. 100. I'm not even going to debate that, because there's nothing to debate. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah, no, it's the sticky situation, in the sense that, yeah, man, it's based on personal interpretation, man. I can sit here and have a conversation with 30 people, and all 30 people will have a different interpretation of this hire, and they'll believe something that they want to believe. And who's to say they're all wrong about it, right? Somebody may see the Chauncey Billups situation and be like, hey, you know what? He settled. He paid his penance. He did what he did his time. He hasn't done anything. That's the other thing about it too. They did something, 5, 6, 7, 10, 15, 20, whatever years ago. They've had no issues since then. Are we just going to judge them on one bad moment in their entire life and say, okay, that's it, scorched earth policy? They never, because, like, I always look at this thing from a human perspective. Like, I'm human. I've made mistakes. I've said fucked up things. I've done fucked up things to people. I hope that part of my life doesn't follow me everywhere I go, and every situation. Someday I may blow up in this podcasting game. I hope I don't lose a job podcasting because I catcalled a woman in a club one night.
But catcalling is different.
And I'm not. I know you're not. I know you're not. But you know what I mean. I'm just that's where we're getting with this stuff, right? It's like, I don't want people, And I'm not saying I don't know if Chauncey Billups can coach. Who the fuck knows? I don't know. And I'm not a
Right.
fan of Chauncey Billups as far as like, oh yeah, woo, Chauncey Billups. Like, I don't know. This is just me trying to look at it from a completely even keel lens and looking at it from all aspects. And yeah, man, I can't argue with a woman that says I'm appalled and disgusted by this hire. I can't argue. And I will not. I will never dare do that.
Right. And
I just want to call out the inconsistencies of it, because again, are we going to apply it when we're out the outrage? Are we going to have selective outrage, or are we going to apply it to everybody? Because again, if Chauncey Billups was Phil Jackson or Eric Spoelstra, then we might be having a different conversation, because now you have a part of the fan base that'd be like, yeah, he's Phil Jackson. You know what I mean? Like, oh, he's got six.
right.
You know what I mean? Like, you'd have that, and you absolutely would have that contingent. You may think it's a small contingent. I think there's a little bit more meat in the on that bone, but you would have that definite contingent. So
I think a lot of that
listen, it's
contingency would be men, though. I don't think it would be women. I don't
I'm
think it
sure
would
there
be.
would be
I
men.
don't think
I'm
it'd
sure
be.
there would be
I
men.
don't think it'd be the victims of abuse. I think you have a lot of men who are coming forward, standing up for women right now, and I think it's a beautiful thing. But I do think
Beautiful thing.
I think a lot of men find it really hard to go against other men, especially in a position where there's a man being vulnerable on the other side. It's a very difficult thing for a lot
And
of
the
men to
other
do.
aspect of this, no, we'll close with this.
It's black
The
men.
other aspect of this, it's a black man.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of black men in these positions of
And there's
power.
history, this country's history of black men being set up with. I understand that. I completely 1000% understand
And
Yeah.
I'm in a group chat with a lot of dudes that feel that way. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
really? Now Chauncey Billups isn't good enough because
Yeah.
I'm,
See, my thing is
and
like
hey,
Chauncey don't get the job. Just give it to another black man. Just give it to another black.
but then that even looks even worse, right? Because now it's like you're just trying to start like, oh, pick a Negro, roll Rolodex. Like, yeah, it's like, no, now you're not even. Yeah,
No, I feel you.
listen,
I feel
yeah,
my thing is that for me, I understand that completely. And for those of you who are listening for the first time, if you think I have any issues towards the black community, you do not know me.
oh, Josh, you hate black people.
I do,
And I hate women. Apparently,
Yeah.
from what I just said, I hate women.
Yeah,
It's okay.
I do understand that concern. I had someone hit me up on Twitter saying that, and he said it very respectfully. He's like, man, I just, it's hard for me to get around the fact that, it might be another black man being set up. And the only thing I could say back to him was like, yo, I get it. I get it. Like, but I read the settlement. This is the conclusion I came to. And I think it's really important to stand up for women right now. But I get it. I totally get that. And that's another position where it's just like, damn, like I get it.
And the other aspect, and then if you want to go the other way, it's it's about protecting women. Black women are a part of this equation too, about protecting women.
I don't even know the race of the other.
I don't know.
I don't know if she was black, white, or whatnot. But that's another thing. Like, what if she was a black woman? So you're talking about black, and you're putting
right.
Yeah.
That's why I don't even like talking about these situations, because again,
but I mean, it's hard conversations that
that we need to have.
That's a lot of there's a lot of different and this is what I say, it's so hard for our country to even see eye to eye with shit, because we have so many different groups and a lot of our interests do intersect, but a lot of our problems also intersect with each other, where it's kind of like I'm not saying we're forced right now to choose a side between women or black men. Like, that's not what it is. But a lot of times that does seem like a false dichotomy that a lot of people make up in their heads. Yeah. Like, a lot of people are having this false dichotomy in their heads right now. I have to choose a black man or I have to choose a woman. And you don't have to. You don't. Yeah. I mean, I could come out and say right now, personally, I support women in this situation, but also fuck yeah, Black Lives Matter. I'm here for the fucking movement. Anything y'all need, I'm with y'all 1000%, and someone on the other side could say, I believe Chauncey, but you know what? I believe, in the Me Too movement, and I do believe women, I believe in due process at the same time, but I do hope that women are protected. So it's a very interesting and it's a very hard conversation to have with a lot of nuance, and you got to take people at the word, and you got to, give grace to people, and you got to, hope and just believe that they're coming from, the most pure part of their, intentions. And I'm trying to do that when I'm talking to people. It's just that a lot of times I feel like, a lot of people don't come with the best intentions. That's
I'll close with the, Twitter's just, but I'll close with this, man. Wrong is wrong, right is right, and that's how it should be. And an injustice somewhere is an injustice everywhere. So that's how I try to treat all these. And of course, there's nuance to everything. There's discussions that need to be had on all surfaces and all levels of this. So nothing is black and white. But yeah, that's just how I feel about it. So, all right, we're gonna get up out of here because I am sweating